Good morning and welcome to our class on organizational types and considerations, where you're going to learn about the different kinds of legal entities that you can build your business formation around and why you would want to choose one over the other. So welcome to the class. I'm so glad to have you here. So the first thing I want to bring to your attention is hopefully you have your participant guide. If you do not, here is the information so that you can get to the participant guide. You can use the QR code or you can go directly to the Urban Chamber with their link. I also put the link in the chat for you. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to talk about general characteristics, advantages, and disadvantages of each of the different kinds of organizational types that we're going to discuss. And we're going to discuss sole proprietorships, partnerships, limited liability companies, C corporations, and S corporations. Now, you'll notice that we're not going to be discussing nonprofits, but there's some information in our virtual classroom on nonprofits. Also, understand that a nonprofit is structured like a C corporation. So you're going to get some basic information. So, what do you know and what do you want to learn about organizational types and small businesses? Okay. So we're going to look at the 5 common organizational types, which we just talked about. They're called legal structures. They're set up for 2 purposes. One purpose is so that you build your internal structure of your business around how this legal structure is set up. And the second reason is that your taxes are built around your legal structure. So there is a tax form for a sole proprietor that's different than a tax form for a C corp, that's different from a partnership, etc. So what are the factors that we're choosing for an organizational type? So part of that is taxation, like we talked about, but it's also liability and risk. Okay, so who's responsible for what happens in the business? Okay, responsible for harm to another person or property or contract disputes. Who's taking the responsibility for that? And how does that affect your business? How does management affect your business and who makes the decisions? Looking at continuity and transferability, how does your business continue to grow and exist? And how do you change ownership in your business? And looking at expense and formality, we're looking at the costs, the legal responsibilities, the degree of complexity. And what you'll find is that some of these legal entities are very simple, and some of these legal entities are very complex. So we're going to look at all of them so that you have a good idea of what you're doing and how you're doing it and what that means in your business and how your business is growing. When you're looking at how your business is set up, and this is talking about what kind of license did you get, because part of this legal entity or the legal factors that we're looking at says what kind of license we have. Okay, so what kind of license did you choose, or what kind of license do you need to choose? So let's start with the most simple of the kinds of programs that are available. Okay, so when we look at a sole proprietorship, what does that mean to us as a business owner? And what kind of information do we need to have, we need to understand as we decide what we want to do, what we want to choose, okay? So a business is one and the same as the owner. And so a sole proprietorship says simply You and the business are one from a legal standpoint. That means that all the money that you make in your business is considered income by the IRS. So we're going to get a little deeper into that, but I just want you to think about that for a moment. And of course, feel free to go to your, go to your participant manual and follow along. All right, so business is one and the same as the owner, as well as what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? Well, one of the advantages is that it's the simplest way to start a business. I decided I wanted to go in business. I don't have any employees. It's just me, or it's just my spouse and me, because it has been, this definition has been updated to include a spouse. It does not include employees. Sole proprietor means individual, one. And so it's the simplest one to form. It costs the least. I'm trying to get into business. I don't have a lot of money, so it does cost me the least. Okay. And it's appropriate if you're just getting started. So what are the disadvantages? Well, the disadvantage is that owners have unlimited personal liability. If somebody sues me for something, they sue me, the person, because the business and the person are one, which means they can take away my house, my car, etc. They can't take away your kids, but they can take away those things that are attached to you, because there's no separation, there's no legal separation between what the business is doing and what you are doing. Pass-through taxes means that when I make money in my business as a sole proprietor, that money is taxed by the IRS. So keep that in mind. Also, the owner, now you may take this as an advantage, or you may take this as a disadvantage. The owner controls everything in the business. I'm the boss. I run everything. Okay. That may be a good thing, and that may be a not good thing. We're not sure yet, right? All right. So when we're looking at what happens in our business, in our sole proprietorship, and we're saying, okay, we just started this business. We're going to go out and get a business license. I don't have any, I don't have any employees. It's just me. I just want to get started. Sole proprietorship sounds like the best way for you to go. But understand there are other options. So let's look at a general partnership. And a general partnership is an association between two or more people. So anytime you are doing business with someone other than yourself and your spouse, you have left the sole proprietorship territory, and now you're moving into new territory. So if you want to do business with someone else, if I want to do a business with my brother, or if I want to do a business with my parents, I'm going to have to go and look at some kind of a partnership. Okay. So like a sole proprietorship, partnerships have pass-through like a sole proprietorship, partnerships have pass-through taxation, and the owners are personally liable for the debts of the business. So that means that as a general partner, this part of how you are looked upon as a business says this responsibility is the responsibility of the partners themselves. So as they pass through, as the taxes pass through the business, It is the partners who get taxed. Now, one of the things that's different is that they do share the risk and they do share the costs. But what you do in your partnership agreement, and let me step back for a moment. Anytime you're going to do business with someone other than just yourself, you need it in writing. So before you decide to go get a license for a partnership, you need to have a partnership agreement. What does a partnership agreement do? It says person A is responsible for certain things and person B is responsible for certain things. You want to do this while you have the joy and the passion and the thrill of working together, because what you talk about has very little impact legally. What you signed on to, what you wrote and signed the document, that has great impact legally on how your business is run. You can share the risks, you can share the costs. You're going to put this in your agreement. Okay, you're going to say who's going to be the person who manages the business, who's going to be the person who does something else. Maybe there is one person that does the operations and another person does the sales. You put that in the agreement. Okay. And this is simple to form, just like a sole proprietorship. It is simple to form and it does not cost you an arm and a leg, but you need to have it in writing. So that's extremely, extremely important, because the other thing that you want to think about is what happens when one partner doesn't want to be a partner anymore. A partner wants to retire, or a partner wants to go into a different business. That needs to be in the partnership agreement also. Not only how we start the partnership, but how we grow the business as a partnership, and what we do when one partner says, I don't want to be here anymore for whatever reason. Okay. And so you're going to look at partnerships very seriously and put everything in writing, right? So there are things called limited partnerships too. So what does a limited partnership do, and how is that different than a general partnership? Okay. So in both cases, both the partners will run the business. Okay. So that part is straight. But this is to make sure that now maybe one of my partners is putting up some money into the business and the other partner is putting sweat equity in the business. We want to make sure that we have that completely understood, and how the liability will happen within the partnership. So you still have pass-through taxation as a partner. You still have to have that agreement. That agreement is just so essential to how you run your business successfully. And your liability will depend on the type of partnership that you have, whether general or whether it's going to be limited. So if we're looking at risk and we're looking at liability, a general partner has unlimited liability. The general partner is responsible for everything that happens in the business, period. But when we have limited partners, they are personally responsible for only up to their personal investment into the partnership. So let's say, for instance, that you and I decided to be partners, and I invested $10,000 into this business. And so I am now a limited partner, and my responsibility or my liability within the business is up to $10,000 only. Okay, so That's some of the difference between a general and having a limited partnership. A general partner in a limited liability partnership is responsible for the ordinary operations of the business. So we still need to have, as a partnership, we still need to have somebody running the business. Okay. So which partner is going to do that? The limited partnership structure generally encourages investors. Like I just invested $10,000 into your business. So it encourages me to come in, and maybe I'm doing something for a project, but I'm not there all the time. If I am investing in the business and I'm putting my money in and I want to actually work in the business, that's going to be something that we look at in the partnership agreement. You and I have to agree how we are going to work together. So what is an LLC? Now, this is probably one that you have heard about so often. Everybody says when you go get a business license, you need to go get an LLC. Well, what is an LLC? It is a limited liability company. It's kind of the new kid on the block. It's probably been available for maybe 30, 40 years by now, but it's still considered the new kid on the block. And what is the difference between a limited liability and a sole proprietorship and a general partnership, in any kind of partnership? This is kind of a hybrid. And it says, an LLC says, we're taking the best parts of the other issues that are out there. We're taking the best part of sole proprietors, partnerships, corporations, and we're putting them together to make it easier for you to actually get your license and set up your business. We give you more flexibility. And again, back to that agreement, if you're a single member LLC, it's just you. If you are a multi-member LLC, which is two or more, you need that agreement. Okay, so you now have greater flexibility. You've got sole proprietorship and partnership in distributing your profits. Okay. And so as your business is growing, how do the distributions work? That's part of what you do when you go to a limited liability company and you set up your agreement. You're going to say how that works. And the IRS is going to look at this and say, based on how your business is set up, what kind of entity you chose, then it is going to tax you according to that entity. So you've got options here. If any of this is confusing, and hopefully you are clients of the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, or SCORE, please get in touch with them. That is a trusted advisor. Ask questions. If this is an overview class, it's going to give you a lot of information. And if any of this information is good, I'm not exactly sure what that means, please get in touch with your trusted advisor, SCORE, or Small Business Development Center, and ask the questions. Here in the state of Nevada, you can go online and it will give you additional information. You can call the Secretary of State's office and they will give you additional information. So don't feel like this is a lot of information and you're not really sure what to do with it. Yes, it is a lot of information, but I want to make sure that you know what to do with it. So if you get stuck anywhere, ask your questions. So what is a corporation? Now, just like we've heard a lot about LLCs, we've heard a lot about corporations. Because when you think of corporations, what do you think of? Do you think of like an IBM? Or do you think of like an Apple? Or you think of a Google? Those companies that that are big, big, big companies and they're corporations. Okay. So a corporation is probably not something that you would be interested in at the moment. As I said at the very beginning, if you have a nonprofit does work like a C corporation. But we can get into nonprofits at another time. That's not something that we're going to go into great detail here. But a corporation is a legal entity and it's created in the state. Okay. So all of these legal entities that we have, the state, the Secretary of State's office is the one who it actually issues the licenses themselves. So because it's under the laws of the state, then it has its own privileges and liabilities distinct from anybody else. So if, let's just say that you came to the state of Nevada from a different state, and you're saying, well, I want to, I had a corporation in the state that I lived in. I want to have a corporation in the state of Nevada. We encourage you strongly to find out what a corporation in the state of Nevada looks like, because it may not and probably will not look exactly like the state that you are coming from. Okay. So there's two different kinds of corporations. One is a C corp and one is an S corp. And those come from the laws, from the tax laws. And that's a section in the tax law under corporation. There's a section C, and subchapter C, there's a subchapter S. And that's why we call them C and S corporations. So what is a C corporation? Well, that's the kind that we talked about, like the IBM or Apple or Google or whatever. Those are C corporations. Those are big guys. Okay. And so why would somebody want to be a C corporation? Well, first of all, you have a lot of stuff. You got a lot of people, you've got investors, you've got a lot of stuff going on in your business that a small business does not have yet. So the corporation itself is considered a legal entity. So because your corporation is a legal entity, your liability as the owner is limited. Your company is taxed, and now that you have turned your business into a corporation, and the corporation is a legal identity on its own, you are now an employee of the corporation. So under those legal terms, the corporation gets taxed for the revenue that comes into the company, into the corporation, and you get taxed for the money that you make in the corporation. So that people say, oh my gosh, it's double taxation. Yep, it is. For you, it is double taxation because you get taxed on the money that you make, what's your salary, what are your wages, etc. And the company gets taxed on the money it makes, what is the revenue that comes in. This one takes some time to form, takes a lot of effort. It takes an attorney to help you to do this right. It is complex, and you have to go through and look at who is in the corporation, how is the corporation set up, who's the chairman, who's the president, who's the vice president. So how does the board set up? How's the company itself set up? So this is not one that I recommend that you try to take on your own. And I don't recommend if you are a new or fairly new business, don't even look at this yet. You're not to that point. This is appropriate for a few specific reasons. Otherwise, choose another organizational type. This is the big guys. And if you are in business to be a big guy, then you will get to this, but you're not there yet. So before there were LLCs available, like I said, they're the new kids on the block. There was this thing called an S Corp, or that subchapter S that comes from the information in the legal documentation for taxes. Okay. So what is an S corporation? This was normally what businesses did was they started out as sole proprietorships. Then as they started to grow and they wanted some more protection, then they went to an S corp so that there is a definite separation between what is according to the business and what is accorded to the person. So the owner has limited liability of a corporate shareholder, but pays income tax like a sole proprietor or like a partner. So there's advantages and disadvantages of an S corp, but just like a C corp, except it has the pass-through taxation. Okay, so again, if this is an entity that you want to look at, just like with every other entity, I recommend that you talk to a trusted advisor like the Small Business Development Center or like a SCORE mentor, or talking to here in our state, talking to the Secretary of State's office. So when you're going through all this and you're trying to figure out how all this works, how do you know which one that you want? Which structure is best for you? So when you have your business plan done, or as we've talked about previously, you want to have your business model canvas or your lean canvas done first, and then build your business plan. You need to think about, as you're building this, who's going to be the owner? Who's going to operate the business? Is this going to be a one-person business? Is this going to be a partnership? Am I going to have family members that I bring into the business? Am I going out and looking for employees and bringing employees into the business? Who's going to be really responsible for the liabilities if something happens? Who's responsible for that? And then, is this a large venture with a lot of different owners and complex financing? Then I'd most definitely need to be talking to someone whose opinion that I trust and who knows what they're talking about. Talk to an attorney, talk to your Small Business Development Center, talk to SCORE. Look at what the IRS has to say about business organizational types. Look what the SBA has to say about small business types. Okay, so there's a lot that's here. Now, if I'm just starting out on my business and I had to think about all this, but I got to think about taxes, I got to think about liabilities, I got to think about employees, I got to think about if I'm going to get rid of my business, I'm going to grow it to a certain amount, and then I want to sell it. All these things that I'm thinking about, I would highly recommend that you talk to SBA, SBDC, those are acronyms for Small Business Administration or Small Business Development Center, or SCORE. Small Business Development Center and SCORE are a part of the Small Business Administration. So these are people that you could talk to just kind of, have that conversation back and forth so that you're feeling comfortable with what you have. When it comes to your taxes, you can talk to a tax preparer. You can talk to, you can't talk to anybody from the IRS, but you can definitely go to their websites and see if they have anything there that answers the questions that you've been asking. You can talk to a CPA. A CPA may give you some free time to have that conversation, or they may tell you that they charge for that conversation, but you can always ask and find out. You can talk to an attorney, but please choose the right attorney. You do not want to talk to your attorney who handles divorces about building the structure for your business. You want to talk to a business attorney who understands the structure, the liability, the financial issues, the people issues, etc. So choose the right person to talk to, but I go back to choose that trusted advisor that you have. Okay. So as you're thinking about this for yourself, what do you think that you need to do? Okay. So if you are on, I think it's page 15, choosing your organizational type, you got the questions that are asked, and then on the next page, you think it through. Which organization type would be right for you and your new business? Okay. There are some key points to remember. Organization type impacts how you own and run your business. You want to match your legal structure to the business needs. So we're looking at all those things that we've talked about, the tax, the liability, the management, the continuity, who's working in the business, and what are the expenses of the business and how are they being taken care of. The most common small business type is your sole proprietorship, but that is your sole proprietorship. The IRS looks upon that as you and the business are one from a tax standpoint, from a liability standpoint, and from how you do business. So everything that happens in that business impacts you personally, whether it is money coming in or whether it is money going out. You have the option of a partnership, which includes the pass-through taxation because you're responsible for that, and the personal liability, you're responsible for that. Now, there are different kinds of personalities. There are different kind of partnerships. We're not going to go into every kind that there is, but I want you, if you're thinking about a partnership, again, I want you to go to do your research on that. Find out what kind of partnership is best for you and make sure you have that partnership agreement. And it says the last thing that you need to remember is a business plan is the best way to determine the organization structure that is right for your business. I recommend highly that you do the business model canvas or you do the lean canvas first before you write the business plan. Let's get this stuff out of your head on paper in a very simple manner, something that you can look at and say, I think I know what direction I'm going in. This helps me to clear my head. And that's the point. When it's in your head, it sounds like it's the most wonderful business, but let's put it down on paper and let's see what direction we need to go in as a business so that we're on the right track to get to the success that we want. So when you think about all these things that we have talked about, when you think about the different kinds of corporations that are out there, S and C, you think about the different kinds of partnerships. There are general partnerships, there are limited partnerships, there are limited liability partnerships, okay? When you think about a sole proprietor, the business and I are one. You want to look at this and say, okay, this makes this particular type makes sense to me because, and your because needs to back up the choice that you've made. Your because says, I am a sole proprietorship because I'm new at this. I'm just starting out in my business. I want to get the license so that at least I can start doing business in the state. And I need to get my local license so I can start doing business locally. And so I think sole proprietor would be best for me because I am just getting started. Or my brother and I want to start a business. We're just getting started. But because it is the two of us, we're going to be looking at a general partnership. And we're both putting in sweat equity and we're both putting in, if we've got some savings to put into the business, we're doing that too. But we are putting everything in writing because we want to be clear who is doing what in the business and how this business starts, how this business continues to grow, and then what happens if one of us decides that we no longer want to be in this business. You're looking at this from different angles. Some of these angles may seem a little confusing to you. That's why you're going to go back to your trusted advisor and have that conversation, whether that's your attorney, whether that's your CPA, whether that's your tax preparer, okay, whether that's someone who's already in business and is doing a good job in business, and you're having a conversation with that person because you trust that person's information and advice. You need to have those conversations. So don't get overwhelmed because it's not overwhelming. It's literally very simple to decide what kind of business you want to be in. Use that business model canvas or use that lean canvas to clarify those pieces for you. Then choose, as you look at that canvas, then look at what would be most appropriate for you as you start your business. Personally, when I started my business, I started as a sole proprietor. And once my business I started doing some work, had some clients, et cetera, and I started to grow a bit. I thought, oh, okay, well, as I'm growing, I think that I need to have some separation between my business and myself. And so I went on and got an LLC. And so the LLC says my business is on one side and I am on the other. The IRS looks at this and says I am a one-person LLC. That's my choice. I am a one-person LLC. And so my tax form that I use is the same tax form that I used when I was a sole proprietor because I'm a one-person LLC. For partnership, I use the same tax form as any other partnership would use, okay? As a corporation, I use the same tax form that I would use for either a C Corp or an S Corp. So all in all, the LLC is kind of the way that it's been put together to give you more options. So please take the time to look at this. Now, there's some things that I did not go into because we have future classes where we're going to talk about insurance. We're going to talk about risk and responsibility. We're going to be talking about the separation of business and personal. We've already talked about from a financial standpoint, how important that is so that you have your business account and you have your personal account. You have your business credit, which you will be growing as a business, and you have your personal credit. So in this 13-week, this series, we are going to touch on all of those pieces. So any questions before we go? So since there are no questions, let me just reiterate that We looked at 5 different kinds of organizational types. Make sure that you go through this material in your participant manual. We looked at the characteristics, the advantages and the disadvantages, and all 5 of them have all of that, okay? But what's most advantageous for you or what's not most advantageous for you? And then how you choose your organizational type. So what I would like for you to do, if you've not done so already, is assess what your knowledge was before we started and assess what your knowledge is now that we've finished. I would like for you to complete the evaluation form and send it directly to me. Any forms that you fill out, just send them to me. If there's any forms that you're doing within the books and you would like to share them with me, you're always welcome to do so. You can contact me also. So you have my email address. Please feel free to do so. Be glad to help you in any way that I can. And let me give you some resources. I talked a little bit about a couple of them, but let me show you some other resources that are out there. There is the Department of Business and Industry put together what they call the roadmap, the business roadmap. And the roadmap is looking at the kinds of things you do in business and where you are along this trail. What you're looking at, let's just talk about, you're thinking about getting a business location. Then you would go to the square, or I'm sorry, the rectangle that has business location in it. And when you click on that, it will open up to resources that will help you as you're looking for your location. Or if you're looking for funding, you click on funding, it gives you resources. Now, it does not do the work for you. It gives you resources that you can go to and you can start learning about how to do these things for yourself. Licenses, maybe you need not only a business license, but you may need some kind of a permit for the kind of industry you're in. Go there and find out what industries say that you need additional information and how do you get that additional information. So this is a great place to go. Of course, we have the QR code, but it's also business.nv.gov. We also have a virtual classroom, which I've mentioned several times, and we have a lot of different classes in there. So please take a look and take a look at what the classes are that we already have in the virtual classroom. Build your, support yourself with as much good information as you can. So you see some of the things that we've been talking about, entities, and there's a class on how to really start a business in Nevada. This is like, maybe you came from another state, or maybe this is the first one. This is the first state you've been in. This is the first state you tried to build. Fantastic. Here's a class that will help you. How to pay taxes as an LLC. What is the difference between S Corps and C Corps? Okay. What's an EIN number? So there's a lot of stuff that's here that will help you as you're going through this process. Again, if you have questions, feel free to contact me. This is getting into our general area. This is our website. And here we have classes, we have live classes, and we have virtual classes. So you can go here and get that information. Here's a virtual class. These are live, these are virtual. This gives you an idea of who we are as a team. We need to update this because our team has changed a little bit. Some business resources, as I'm giving you some of them, but truly I'm not giving you all of them. And we do have a podcast. Okay. As I said, we need to update this because this is COVID resources and these are no longer available. So we do have what we call a Biz Life podcast, and the podcast is done in English and in Spanish. And let me reiterate, The classes are done in English and in Spanish in the virtual classroom. So if you're more comfortable with learning in Spanish, please go to the Spanish classes. If you're more comfortable in learning in English, please go to the English classes. So the podcast is here for your benefit. It is to talk to small business owners like you and to talk about how your business works. What are the kinds of things that you're doing in your business? How are you reaching your customers? Did you have some challenges? How did you overcome them? Because that will help another business owner who may be headed for those challenges that you had. What kinds of things are you doing? How does your business impact the small business community? So the podcasts are there. We're also on YouTube and we're also on Spotify. So please take a look at the podcasts, get involved. If you go take a look at them, do us a favor and subscribe to them so that we can continue doing this for you. So this is one of those places that I mentioned before, the SBDC, which is called the Small Business Development Center. They have advisors here, and you can, if you are not a client of theirs, you can go to them and you can click on Request Advising, and it will take you to this page. And you will go here to new clients sign up. You fill out the information. They will get back to you with the name of your advisor and what you need to do to prepare for that first meeting. If by chance you are already a client of the Small Business Development Center and you have lost contact with your advisor, you can go here to contact us and to just ask them, who is the advisor who works with me? And then they will do the same thing. They will give you that person's information, and it is up to you to make the appointment. The advisor will not make the appointment for you. You will be making the appointment to sit down with the advisor, whether you do this in person, which I highly recommend, or you do this virtually, or you do this over the phone. But I think it's to your advantage and to the advisor's advantage that you meet them personally when you can. Also, they have training events. And so you can go to, if you are a client already, you can go to their training and look at the different kinds of things that they do. And I mentioned SCORE. So SCORE in Las Vegas is mostly a virtual chapter, but they have mentors who are very well versed in an area of business or business in general. There is, let's just say that you have some marketing issues or you're asking some marketing questions even, then you can go here to SCORE and they will attach you to things that are marketing related. Maybe it's a workshop. Maybe it's talking directly with a marketing person, a marketing professional who can walk you through the process. So all of these resources, and again, I haven't given you all of them, but hopefully I've given you enough that says there are people out there who can help you as your business starts and grows. And if you're at the place where you've grown your business as large as you want to, and you now want to get rid of your business, maybe you want to sell it or you want to pass it on to someone else, then they also can help with that. But we're also going to cover classes in those things too. So don't let this be the only class that you watch. This is a 13-part series. Please take the time to go and look at all of the pieces of the series. Thank you very much for joining us today. You have my information, my phone number, and my email address. It is probably easier to either text me with the phone number or email me with the email address. You have the information from our university and our extension. We are an extension of UNR, University of Nevada, Reno. And you have the Urban Chamber, because we do this in conjunction, we do this together. And you went to the Urban Chamber to get your participant manuals. We also do this live too, but right now we're putting all these classes online for you so that you have the ability to start going through this information and start to use it to your advantage. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope that this has been helpful, and please feel free to contact me.